Welcome to the Whiskey Tribe. We're going to get into the best, most accessible whiskeys, the most findable whiskeys you can actually get your hands on, as chosen by the community of Magnificent Bastards.
So you're not dressed up?
I donated my
I thought we were dressing up.
ensemble to the table because it was really boring, and you look like Ming the Merciless. So we're gonna go through, there's 4 different categories represented here.
Good, bad.
You have like your favorite all-time whiskeys, but in the world of whiskey, it's often really hard to find things. Distribution and availability, it's really spotty.
In my brain, this is gonna come down to 2 things if I was picking.
Okay.
And I think all of these fit this metric.
Okay.
Either something I could easily, reasonably find at a bar if I was out drinking and they didn't necessarily have a fancy whiskey list.
Yeah.
I'd be able to find one of these 12 pretty easily.
Sure.
Or if I'm out on a little vacation in a place I don't normally live, I can pop by a local liquor store of any size and reasonably find one of these whiskeys.
Yeah, so first of all, the categories. We got 4 categories. Originally, we were going to say we got the bourbon, we got the Irish, we got the rye, and got the Scotch. Now, by the time people started throwing all their favorites out there, the ones that they can feel very confident, they can go to a store and they can pick up a bottle. Rye didn't make a strong enough showing. In place of rye, I think because the gamut of Scotch is so wide, we do a smoky Scotch and a sweet Scotch.
That's
because they're like
reasonable.
so different, it might as well be a different category. Of the 4 categories, which category do you want to start with here?
Let's start with Irish whiskey.
I have no problem with this. The green spot.
Oh, no, okay, I do have a caveat in this one because I'm surprised that this one made the easily accessible list. I've never been to a bar that had green spot that wasn't like a whiskey bar.
It's not like they have a small distillery behind them, and this is freaking Middleton, man.
Right.
This is like the same people that are making
the biggest one.
REDBREAST and JAMESON.
Right.
And I'm not terribly surprised that they have enough distribution for people to vote it up as
Maybe they're
commonly,
scaling up.
I can walk in, I can confidently get this, it's very accessible. And this is one of your favorite Irish.
It is, I say it all the time, but I get the green apple and coconut, sweet pear. I would say this is even accessible for drinking purposes. Like,
What do you think we're doing?
no, I mean like, no, I mean not just accessible.
Are you bathing in it?
No, I mean like not just accessible to get and purchase, but like to introduce somebody who doesn't necessarily know if they like whiskey to whiskey.
Oh, so like an introductory. Okay.
Yeah, I think all 3.
I too think this is good for drinking, Daniel.
Well, I didn't think we were going to talk about the other things we did with whiskey on camera.
Diameter is very strategically
Nope.
chosen.
No.
That was design choice.
Nope.
You remember Ball Deep?
That's what I was hoping you wouldn't say out loud. Sweet Jesus. Can't take you anywhere.
Let's move on to a different category. Right? That came in at number 3.
So we're going to do all the 3s
Yeah,
first?
we'll just go through like the number 3s. What do you shove over the bourbon? I should also tell you why we're doing this accessible whiskey list in the first
Well,
place.
what's the number 3 bourbon? I'll get it while you're talking.
Maker's Mark.
Okay.
So the reason why we're doing an accessible whiskey list is because next Saturday's episode, the episode on this channel next week, September 12th, we have the Bastards Ball live stream. And one of the things we're doing with the live stream is we're having the official list of drink-along whiskeys, the whiskeys that we're going to be pouring during the live stream, along with a bunch of others.
Right.
But if everybody wants to experience the live stream with us pour for pour, these are what we're going to be doing, so you can get all, some, or none of these. This is just going to be the official list for the Bastards Ball live stream next week.
Are we going to work through all 12 of them?
Oh, we're getting through all of them.
All right, Maker's Mark bourbon, a wheated bourbon. I get that makes it, yes, this you can get anywhere.
And I get why people are voting it up as, yes, accessible, but also one of my favorites. This is classic, but there's also, the thing that always stands out for me, this really rich, prominent cherry note, which I like in bourbons.
It's a very kind of soft, approachable bourbon. The wood notes don't become overly tannic, and they don't become overly bitey.
It's like this maraschino cherry, this rich honey, and then this oak note.
But it's still got nice wood complexity at the end without it taking over. It's just a well-balanced whiskey.
It's good. Let's go. You want to go to the sweet Scotch?
Sweet Scotch.
Or sweet Scotch. GLENMORANGIE.
Oh.
What do we know about the GLENMORANGIE?
It is a whiskey from Scotland.
We're learning.
When you are trying to introduce people to whiskey, one of the hardest, especially Scotch, you have all these different barrel variations and finishes and all this kind of stuff. And sometimes it's fun to introduce people to like, here's the same essential malt in all of these barrel variations without spending a shocking amount of money. But Glenmorangie has invested in their core range being finishing barrels. So the original, like ex-bourbon typically, their La Santas, the sherry cask, and so on, right? And so at a reasonable price point, you can get their core 4 and show an entire tasting. Like, here's this essentially the same people making 4 different barrel finished whiskeys.
That's a nice thing to do with, you're right. The comparison is one of the most fun and effective things you can do with people to try and pick out the flavors they're experiencing if they don't really have a lot of reference points yet.
Now, I will say, this one does have way more of that malty funk note, and some people don't like that.
It's sweet, but there is that maltiness. It's kind of like a farm earthiness kind of.
Yeah, mixed with Honey Nut Cheerios.
Oh yeah, all right. And then you get like a really sweet, like floral.
Yeah,
right
I
on
like
the
this
taste.
because it is a nice, pretty whiskey that doesn't get boring.
Yes.
Right?
I would agree. Smoky Scotch. You ready?
Yes.
LAGAVULIN 16.
That became in 3rd?
Yes, for Smoky Scotch. For Smoky Scotch. Accessible. Now keep in mind, the parameters, the specific context we gave people was accessible. And that word's gonna mean a little bit different things to different people. Accessibility also plays into the price. And I think LAGAVULIN 16 is gonna be a little bit more money than say your other Isla options.
Yeah, calling in on $100.
Now, before you go dip a toe into Smoky Scotch territory, this is very, very different than anything that we've had before. If you're new to Scotch, this is more akin to a campfire and Band-Aids and salty, briny earthiness and all of this stuff.
But I would say of the 3, this is actually the most approachable, even though it's smoky and briny and on palate.
Yeah, we'll get to the other 2 smoky ones that got better in a second.
See, it's got, even though it's smoky, even though it's salty, it's got subtlety, and there's that sweet kernel of some sort of like dark candy.
Almost dark candy, or there's almost like a dark chocolate quality to it. Skip back over to the Irish. Ready? Accessible, coming in at the number 2. Easy to find Irish that people enjoy. Jameson. This is one of the most easily found whiskeys on planet Earth.
If you're trying to introduce somebody to Jameson, the hard part is getting them to sip it.
Yeah.
If you're at a party and you're like, hey, I'm gonna pour you guys some Jameson, and you hand it and you don't say anything, they're like, hey, thanks, man. Wham! Like, geez, no, hang on. Like this is a good whiskey. It's worth sipping.
Now it does have what I do think is the quintessential cornerstone Irish note, that shortbread cookie note. That kind of vanilla shortbread cookie. But you do get the sense that you're kind of tickling the budget end of things, because there's like this metallic ethanol layer.
Yeah, it's that almost like the aluminum metallic note.
Number 2 on the bourbon. This is a little frustrating. Okay. There's enough people that can easily find Buffalo Trace that it came in at number 2. Yeah. But around here, it's very hit or miss in terms of availability.
Yeah, sometimes it's like there's 100 on the shelf, and sometimes they're like, that's allocated.
It's a big distillery. They're moving a lot of whiskeys, but I know there's a lot of people, a lot of whiskey lovers that really like this whiskey. It's just very frustrating because you can't regularly find it, but apparently there's enough magnificent bastards that can confidently walk into a store. Like, why you gotta make me feel bad is what I'm saying.
Says the guy who regularly stands in a vault of 2,000 whiskeys.
It doesn't matter.
This one totally different than Makers. Yeah, it's more fresh, it's more almost herbal, but it's also more, to me, the dusty bourbon note.
Yeah, I get like a fresh floral bouquet.
It almost to me has a density of perfume.
Okay. Yeah. And then I'm not getting a lot of oakiness on the nose yet.
Way more pepper and barrel spice.
It shows up on the taste. Glenfiddich 12. Glenfiddich 12. I actually agree with this. I really like this.
You disagree with everything up until now, but this one.
Well, I mean, pricing and availability is a very, very regional and local situation. If you're gonna have a liquor store, even a small one, with Scotch, you're gonna have a Glenfiddich.
Yes. I also think that this one is really close to Glenmorangie.
Yeah.
And I find people who are new to Scotch mixing up Glenfiddich and Glenmorangie and Glenlivet as like the 3 main brands they always know.
Yeah.
But this one to me is way more earth versus honey and oat. It's still honeyed and it's still malt funk, but it's way more of the earth direction. And we're just keeping simple tasting notes, but this is so approachable.
Yeah. It doesn't do like this weird magical journey that unfolds from moment to moment. What you're getting on the nose, it delivers on the taste. It doesn't really burn you with the high proof. And in terms of being available, not crazy expensive, and just nice to drink. Smoky Scotch. Ready?
Smoky Scotch.
Are you ready? It came in at number 2.
I'm gonna guess. Can I guess?
You can guess.
ARDBEG 10.
ARDBEG 10?
Yeah.
All right. What caused you to guess the ARDBEG 10?
Just because I know our LAPHROAIG people, as much as the ARDBEG cult likes to think they're in charge, right, the LAPHROAIG people really do outnumber them.
Interesting. Oh, the League of LAPHROAIG. Are you saying they're the puppet masters?
Yes, I think so.
Are we stirring the pot, Daniel?
Yes, we are. I think it's one of those things like cities where San Francisco is always trying to compare itself to New York, but New York's like, who are you again?
Okay, so ARDBEG 10, we both like dude, one of the most recent episodes we did was with Brianna.
And all the ARDBEGs.
A Whiskey Curious episode.
Yeah.
It was a whiskey noob tries $40 versus $400 whiskeys, and we limited it to one distillery, so she could even have that comparison to single malts from one distillery. That was the ARDBEG distillery. And
I like the ARDBEG because even with the sharp smoke and there's a darkness to it, there's this dark, rich, low frequency that floats through there.
It's like a heavy smoke, like a dark, heavy smoke. It's not one of those thin, wispy, light blue smokes. It's like a black smoke.
Like an oily smoke.
Yeah.
Like a house on fire.
Just understand, if you're getting this assortment based on it's accessible and people voted it up. Smoky Scotches, this is another area of Scotchy whiskey experiences. It's not going to be the sweet things that you're used to.
It meets the availability metric of accessible.
Yeah.
Maybe not the flavor direction of accessible.
Oh, hey, I'm going to do somebody solid here. You know who you are. Look what I'm doing for you. Are you ready for this?
Don't do it.
No, I'm ready.
No, don't do it.
I'm
No,
ready.
that's mine.
Oh, you're coloring in the... Oh, who is that?
Oh, there's one right here.
Oh, that's super shiny. Yeah, it's invisible now.
All right, you want another one?
Yeah.
Here's the problem. I'm not that nice of a person.
You went Jack Nicholson there for a second.
I'm not that nice of a person, Dan. I think maybe we just take away one. There we go. Now we can get back to business.
That was the worst one too. It's dead center.
It's fine. Just don't let it bother you. Okay. Well, we're on Irish now?
Number 1, Irish.
Basically, the people, their personal best, most favorite, most accessible whiskeys that they walk into a liquor store and find. I'm pleased that it is Redbreast 12. There you go.
But this is fine.
I love that this is so accessible, because when people ask me for a whiskey recommendation, I know it needs to be affordable, I know it needs to be accessible, but I can't just say, try Jack Daniels, or try Jameson. It needs to feel like a real recommendation that I know they can get their hands on, they're not gonna blow like any kind of budget, and it is qualitatively very good for most people. Taste is very subjective.
The odds of them being pleased by your suggestion are high.
The thing that I love about this is how rich and deep that shortbread vanilla cookie note is.
It's got everything I love in Green Spot, but downplays the citrus and turns up the darker caramel and creme brulee and dark sugar burnt sugar.
And then if you like this, you want to take it up a notch, you want to go on a funky adventure. You get the cask strength version, the not proof down version.
It dials it up.
And everything that you love about this, it maintains, it just cranks it to 11. The bourbon, the best according to whiskey lovers, most accessible bourbon. The Wild Turkey 101.
Yeah, I'm interested that it was 101 and not just the Wild Turkey.
Yes, it's the 101. And the 101, this often makes it up the way, it makes appearances on very popular, very good bang for your buck whiskey lists and what have you. And the thing that always strikes us about this is how beautifully balanced of a bourbon this is.
Yes, it is very balanced. It almost has hints of both the other two bourbons in the sense of it hints at the cherry, it hints at the herbal floral note, right? But it sort of crosses them.
It does feel like a nice middle ground between the Maker's Mark and the Buffalo Trace, and then it's proofed up to 101, which is a respectable proof.
To me, the rye comes across in the palate when you taste it more than the other two whiskeys.
This episode brought to you by NordVPN.
So that it's like private browser, but in private whole network.
Yeah, so basically look at it this way. You want to access the internet, and one of the coolest things you can do, for example, is whenever you're not being traced and they don't know exactly where your location is, you can get access to a bunch of content that's usually region locked.
Oh, yeah.
So you go to other countries, there's things on the Netflix and the various media platforms that in one country you can't ever watch.
Yeah, I've got friends in Canada whose Netflix have a whole different list of suggested nexts that I can't even click on.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I mean, you and I have traveled internationally.
Yeah.
I didn't realize at the time. This is before I was using Nord. I didn't realize at the time. Wow, the Netflix, like, I didn't know this was on Netflix. This is awesome. I get halfway through a series. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get home, I'm gonna finish this up and relax, like a day of rest. I get there, where is it?
If you were using Nord, that wouldn't have been a problem.
Yeah. Then the other thing is, if you're doing something, if you have something like this that basically is your access point to the internet, is it gonna slow down speed? Super fast.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what, I'm gonna give you an example of the types of content you can access whenever you're no longer region locked. You can see international hand cream sensation, the Creamy Vault.
Oh.
Here, let me show you.
No.
Welcome to the Creamy Vault, hand cream reviews. Say when. In your hand cream savant opinion, how is the cream? That's good cream! What'd you think? Creamy Vault? You need more whiskey? So you go to nordvpn.com/whiskeytribe and use the code whiskeytribe to get 68% off 2 years, and then there's like an additional free month for some reason, because they like the cut of our jib. We're on the sweet Scotch.
Yes, and we got a blend in this one.
The Monkey Shoulder. This is very, very popular in the community, and I think if I recall correctly, with our best whiskeys for beginners list, I think this may have been #1.
I don't remember what was #1, but I know it was way up there, and I know that was the beginning of us being told that we're Monkey Shoulder pushers. Yeah. that this is not the Whiskey Tribe, it's the Monkey Shoulder Tribe.
Right. Look, we don't vote these up.
We don't, yeah.
The main note here is a sweeter note.
Yeah.
The malty funk, it's not the front leading note.
What's funny is I've always come into Monkey Shoulder thinking that the malt funk is first, but after trying GLENMORANGIE and GLENFIDDICH, it's actually a little subdued.
Yeah.
It is simpler than the other two, but it's still interesting.
For the price point that this is at,
yes,
there is a nice classic Speyside sweetness, even though it's like a blend.
Yes.
And there's like this creamy quality to it. So if people, they'll throw around the word like smooth and stuff. Right. They want it to be rounded off. They don't want it to be pointy or sharp or bitey. It's there. It's not flavors that are just going to poke at you.
Right.
Even if you're getting into whiskey relatively new. But in terms of a sweet Scotch, yeah, it's a classic sweet Scotch. You ready? #1 in the Smoky Scotch.
Of course it's LAPHROAIG 10, because Emma went undercover in the tribe.
Yeah, she
and convinced everybody in the tribe to vote LAPHROAIG 10 with promises of financial compensation and.
Yes, one of the most accessible smoky scotches, Isla Scotch, that you can get your hands on. It's practically everywhere.
And maybe my favorite marketing campaign of all time.
Yeah, like Mermaid's Bathwater.
Yeah, making love to a cigar-smoking walrus.
Yes.
It is all of those things. But to me, it's a brighter smoke than REDBREAST.
And I think it's brighter, and that presents as a little bit more of like a medicinal.
Yeah.
Maybe almost an iodine kind of note.
But even with a little hint of the vanilla note in there, that's a little shinier. So now we have the whole list that we're all going to get to drink together in about a weekish. A week actually, right?
Hold on, I'm savoring.
That's pretty good.
Don't ruin the savor. You keep stepping on the savor. I have to restart the savor. As you know, there's a process here. I have to restart the process.
I'm giving you background music.
That's not background.
It's like meditation.
All right, I'll meet you halfway. You put on the cape.
I'm okay with that. I play better with a cape.
Did I mention Bulb Deep?
Mother.
Yeah. We